Now I'm going to prepare the custom keybed for the action. The previous action that was on the custom keybed was Steinway M, and it's approximately the same width anyway. Well, we'll find out, but I'm going to loosen everything so that it's easy to shift what's here for the new action coming in and then firm it up to the actual shape. Even if there were two Steinway Bs, they'd probably be a little bit different. Okay, and the tools for that are a hex tool and a Phillips screwdriver. The one that comes with the system is long, and it's because it needs to be able to go underneath the action to adjust the bedding platforms for the balance rail. Okay, so initially I want to loosen things up. I'm going to leave the balance rail tightened down, but the front rail and the back rail I want to be loose. I call these slipper tracks, and it had to do with the evolution of the design of the regulating rack. And here's my notion. This originally was much bigger, and it was the regulating rack's foot that fit in a slipper, and the slipper slipped on the tracks. The foot's gotten small, but I still call them foot slipper track. So I'm loosening the slipper tracks, and even though the width of the action is approximately 51 inches in both the M and the B, I'd rather have it be a little bit wide and pull it in. There are two stops on the back rail and two stops on the front rail, and I'm going to put up the stops on the back rail because I'm going to install the action from the front. And once in place, I'll pull it as needed the front rail back, turn up its stops, and then once the balance rail is in the right position and the back rail is firm, I'll bring it in to its final position. As I began my setup, I discovered there were a couple of things that were quirky about the other action that I want out of the way and not influencing this. So I'm going to re-level the back rail, and in aid of that, I have backed off the three bedding platforms enough so that the straight edge is sitting firmly on the slipper track flanges. But it's free of the other of the bedding platforms. So if I go too high on this, come on, there you go. That's the right spot. It's pretty sensitive. Now at the other end, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to raise it until it taps, back it up until it doesn't tap in either place. And now That's the overall station. What the heck? Okay, it was the lighting rail that was making noise, so I backed it off. It's kind of hard working with extra noise. And so, I think this needs to go just a little bit higher. One way to do it is to go until you get a noise here. There it is. Back up. Okay. That just means the plane of the slipper track flange extends out to the front rail so that well, for instance, your regulating rack slides back and forth on the slipper track. If it has a certain height in its templates, that height will remain the same relative to the action, whether it's brought to the rear or up into position. Wherever it is in this plane, it will be the same height from the action. I'm going to loosen my elements. So the front rail may have to move, and it's getting platforms. So this allows me to, with the action in place, move things around. And same with these guys. But I'm leaving the balance rail tight because unless the action is so big that it forces that the balance rail is actually on a tilt, a slant, in which case you have to move a little. Having it right down the middle keeps a balance. If there's a twist, it is compensated. Okay, all moves. This is good. Oh, and also I like to have the slipper tracks back. It gives more room for the squaring platform when we come to that. And one of the things about this having been leveled this way is that wherever the slipper track is, it will be at the same height. Okay, here comes the action. Let's see. Okay, it's touching this back rail at the moment. Now what I want is for all the glide bolts to be on their bedding platforms. And since this glide bolt is offset, these have to be at the front side of the elevator, the little bit that goes up and down. This is the same as that in terms of the way it's made. So it would be at the front of that. So 5 of them would be at the front and 1 of them would be at the back, and you just split the difference so they're all supported. Okay, so it needs to go back a little bit. And actually a way to do it is to just line it up with this side of the rail that's underneath it. Sort of an easier visual. You got to make sure they're all in place. If you don't have a custom key bed, it's important to fix the action on the surface that you're working on, because it may be imperfect and what you're doing is a very fine adjustment, and if you move the action over on the surface or change its position like this, it might make a difference in what you have. So now that we've got, let's check that. No, that's not tight. Okay, those guys are all in place. I'm going to now pull this rail out, turn its stops up, push the rail back in, and the rail can move this way, but you want it to be flush to the end because they're a little, there's a little screw in here that you need to be able to access, and if you pull the rail that way, you won't be able to get to it. Okay, so the three rails are in place. I'll tighten the in-between things once I've, I want to space the two outer bedding platforms on the front rail. There's a wedge that goes under the elevator that adjusts the height, and I want the edge of the rail to be flush with the outer edge of the wedge, and that gives it a good support. So I've got that on both ends, and I can then tighten down one of the two screws. Now while I'm here, if I just lift the action up onto the top of the stops and locate my long Phillips screwdriver, I can then tap the bedding platforms into place underneath, and then it's tighten things up. Tighten the rail first. Move this into the center. I want this to be halfway in between those two. Same for this. Okay. These guys all get tightened down. That's just the extra. It's not in anybody's way there. Okay. And the fasteners I couldn't reach with the action in the way. I'm going to move this over the middle, to the middle. And again, I'm going to estimate. That's pretty good. They're both pretty good. Well, that's good because I left that all tight. Yep. There we go. All set. To now adjust the bedding, and once the bedding's done, set up the templates and the regulating rack to have strike. And please like, subscribe, or follow the link in the notes to my website.